And fundamentally, what we've seen looking at Facebook data and looking at this Facebook user base, 73% of them have more than one cookie in a month. In fact, about 25% of them have more than 10 cookies in a month. And this is just on Facebook, given that mapping of people to cookies. Similarly, 60% of people use more than one device type in a month. So you have people using desktop and mobile and tablet, etc. So you really have this problem of device fragmentation and even on a given device, multiple cookies over time. And so why is this a problem? We've seen a couple different dimensions of this. First, if you're just trying to understand your reach and your frequency, what we observe is that cookie-based metrics overstate reach by about 58%. And this is a median number for a set of large advertisers on Atlas today. Conversely then, frequency is understated by about 141%. So how does this manifest? It means you think your frequency capped at 10, you've actually delivered 24. And that's because people are on multiple devices, multiple browsers, and multiple cookies, and you can't effectively frequency cap. It also manifests for our clients as seeing data showing they've reached more people in the state of California than live in the state of California. More people in France than live in France. And the cookie-based metrics are inherently. Next, we see it as a problem of targeting. So using Nielsen online campaign ratings data in the US, if you're buying basic demographically targeted media, you're delivering on average about 65% on target. So imagine you're trying to reach women, about 35% of your spend is potentially going to men and is wasted. And so sharing a lot of bad news, there's actually some good news coming from the transition from cookies to people. And that is cookies fail to capture all of the conversion events that are occurring. So imagine you marketed to me over the weekend on my home PC, and I get to work on Monday morning and I purchase on my work PC. In a cookie-based world, you can't see across those two events, and so that purchase shows up as a spontaneous purchase. Maybe TV or print, you get credit rather than digital. But in a people-based world, we know that that's the same person, and we can stitch together that cross-device path to purchase. So how are we doing this? The way to think about this is that the real opportunity for Atlas, now that it's part of Facebook, is to use the global Facebook population as an anonymized panel for the purposes of measurement. And so raise your hands if you've been a Facebook user in the last month. Pretty much everyone in the room. So we're all effectively panelists in this measurement platform. It's about 1.4 billion people a month on desktop, about 1.2 billion a month on mobile. And think about all the different devices from which you use Facebook. That is our understanding of an anonymized person on that device. So to be clear, Atlas does not see personally identifying information. We can be anonymized with your Facebook ID, but that said, we can understand that this is an individual that is on this phone, and that desktop, and this other laptop. And the frequency of use of Facebook is a huge opportunity for us. 40 minutes a day is the global average. And that means we have regular opportunities to re-authenticate who the person is on that device. And then once we have that understanding of people across devices, you get a much more holistic understanding of the path to purchase and the true frequency and how this series of ads leads to business results. So let's give a couple examples of how we're using this. So we were working with a health and diet products company here in Europe. And you don't have to read the eye chart, but just to give you a sense of what it means to infuse ad effectiveness measurement with this understanding of people. We looked at who was reached by ads by age and gender, and then who converted by age and gender to get a sense of the effectiveness of reaching different audiences. And what we find is women convert 33% higher rates than men, and require 20% fewer impressions to do so. We find out single women are 50% more likely to convert compared to single men. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. You can think of all the dimensions that you use on Facebook for targeting, for measuring, for consumer insights, and think of those as overlays onto your ad delivery. The next piece to think about, now that we're focused on people and we're focused on business results, is getting the metrics right. So for this client, we saw that people who clicked on ads converted 25 times more than non-clickers. 6% of ad clickers purchased. Problem is, non-clickers drove 97% of the sales. So if you're just optimizing for clicks and talking about click-through rates and engagement rates, you're not optimizing for what is actually driving your business. And this is sort of obvious, but it's really powerful, and it leads us to why getting beyond last click attribution, last touch attribution is so powerful. So what we see is, under last touch attribution, and this is a generalized finding that we've seen across all of our clients, but held true for this health and wellness product, is that last touch disproportionately favors bottom of funnel activities like search and retargeting. And in a cookie-based world, you really see no value, last touch or multi-touch, in your mobile ones. But when we move to multi-touch attribution using people, you suddenly see the power of mobile ads to drive desktop purchases. That's huge. We're talking about cross-platform attribution. In one sense, just stitching together mobile into the picture holistically is really powerful. Because mobile is no longer some separate thing on an island. You're no longer buying it on faith. You can actually understand the audiences you're reaching and how mobile ads drive desktop ads. Similarly, we see things like prospecting and brand building, upper funnel activities gain in credit, and lower funnel activities like retargeting lose credit when we shift from last touch to multi-touch. Again, not surprising, and these are results demonstrated by this client that we've seen consistently across. So if I can, in some ways, reiterate what one of the previous speakers said. Do we lose it? Yeah. Sorry, there we go. Great. This is about people, not cookies. Clearly, right? The opportunity here is to use this massive panel of people for ad delivery and measurement. You want to think about reach and frequency holistically across devices. Mobile is no longer special. It's just part of the media mix. You want to drive business results, not the KPIs like click-through rates, engagement rates, likes. That sort of stuff is not what's driving your profitability. And then think about using multi-touch attribution as an always-on strategy to understand ad effectiveness, punctuated by periodic lift tests. And with that, I will hand it on.
Journey. I think what you showed here for Coles is really the online journey, the digital journey. How about the offline world?
I'll pass across to Serge in a second. But from our perspective, the more that we start to weave into the offline world in that initial MTA analysis, then helps us to then match those people who respond to different offline prompts. And we can have a look at their behavior on the console panel as well. So you can start to expand the view. So here we looked at digital behavior. If within the MTA analysis we had also looked at email response or CRM response, all of those things, then because you're matching it back to panelists, you get a full view of those people who respond there as well. So the technique is still the same.
No. The advantages of panel in this case. Yeah, I see. So some questions from the audience. Interesting approaches. Panel approaches, and then I would say maybe one more traditional attribution approach. Some questions would be great. We've got someone in the neck.
Hi, Mike Panatelli, were there any other third-party data used in the Coles example aside from the panel in the overall analysis?
In the initial, the third-party data, we use ad serving data just as the first stage, looking at search, display, and mobile to do the initial MTA attribution analysis. And then when we found those transactions that were modeled to be driven by advertising, which was about 15% of total transactions, we then took that subset of transactions and put that into the console panel. So No, we didn't go as far as taking sort of kind of email or those other things that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
but the beautiful thing about this approach is you could, right? There's no reason why you couldn't. You have the permission, you have the opt-in aspect of it, you have the name and address based on your panel, so you could literally match it to other data sources and then apply it back to this model. So if you have other, if this wasn't a retail, if it was an auto, your auto intenders and auto buyers and all of that stuff, you could absolutely do that. There's no reason why, because again, you have the name and address, you can match it to any third-party database.
Some more questions? We saw earlier that the percentage of clients or big advertisers already using attribution is quite high, 52-53%. What do you think are the main barriers for the rest, let's say, the other half of advertisers that are still maybe a bit more hesitant and using attribution? Where should they start? Where could they start? James?
Sure, jump on this one. I think one of the barriers is complexity, this idea of having yet another vendor in the mix that needs to be managed. If you're dealing with tagging on top of your ad server, you also have to reconcile counts and deal with those implementation issues. It's really why at Atlas we see this as being something that belongs in the ad server. We're already account of record for billing to publishers and for payment. And so it really makes it easier to implement. And so we see it as an always-on feature of the platform itself rather than something that's an additional fee or an additional processor or vendor.
Okay,
I
integrated.
think there's tagging, there's onboarding down to, there's all sorts of onboarding issues from a cookie down to individual issues. And let's not forget privacy as well, right? So people are still very concerned. There's some folks mentioning, you could link it down from an email address. Well, you know what? If the person didn't give you permission to do that, then you really don't have the right to do that. And that's why, you only have 50% of folks doing this stuff. So there's all sorts of different issues, but that's why, again, a panel-based approach, when you do have an opt-in approach, it's just much cleaner and obviously much safer.
I would endorse what's just been said. I think in many respects we just make things too complicated for clients to buy. I think we just need to make it simple so people can understand exactly where they can put their money in terms of making the best from this kind of data analytics. I think that should be the most important point. The other aspect is that in some of those organisations that aren't doing it, there will be no clear owner, no clear stakeholder for this kind of work, and perhaps there is that may not be high enough in the organisation. So understanding who that is and pushing that through the organisation is also very important.
Have you seen an increase in the use of attribution for brand purposes? So it's clear, right, when we talk about sales and people can see whether the sale is made or not, or the company can see that. But what about brand goals? Do you see that as an area of growth for yourselves and for clients?
Not quite as yet, and it's a lot easier for us to look in the retail space, transactional space, to start to match back from that. So it's a little more difficult when you don't have a strong CRM program, when you're not in constant contact with your consumers, to start to do that. I think we'll think through the impact of that kind of branding exercise as well.
I think we are interested. We are seeing a lot of that. We're part of the Density Aegis group. And we're having to understand the longer-term impact of the activity. And I think some places, some of what we're talking about can lead to very short-run tactical actions. And clients are very aware that they're on a journey to move towards an individual understanding of consumers. And in between that kind of transactional sales stuff, there's also understanding the attitudinal and brand aspects. And the data that we've got nowadays that's available can proxy really fast. For understanding how brand will change in the future.
Question at the back there.
So how are you experiencing the income on that server judge?
It's almost after the coffee break, so
But it seems to me that I saw a discrepancy in the data. So in your introduction, you had the nice data from the survey where marketers reported 53% of them are using attribution attribution analysis, but in one of the presenters, they showed data from WARP, where 12% in the US of spend is subject to attribution analysis, and far less in other countries. So I'm sort of wondering what the panel's opinion about this discrepancy is. Are marketers confused? Are they doing more simplistic approaches? Or
I would say, if I can answer that, but please feel free to the panel. I would say the 52% means we're doing it. It doesn't mean we're doing it for all our spend. We're doing it for small spends, and I think if I look at our own company, of course we're doing it. We're starting small, just really focusing on one aspect of our spend, of the digital spend. So I think that relation is really about the volume. I think the 12% in the US was the spend, right? James,
absolutely right. It's about volume of spend, and you were looking at number of people. And the other thing is, my definition is very close around specifically digital attribution. I think yours might be a bit wider. So,
another question in front here?
George.
It's good to have lots of questions.
Very interesting stuff. My question is for Ron, sir. This may be a crazy question, but in terms of the panelists, the panelists that drive this, are the panelists basically just standing for themselves, or are you trying to project them to others' behavior? And if you are trying to project them, do you have to calibrate that in some way to account for the fact that panelists may be different than the population, or is it just you're just trying to learn from the panel and draw conclusions from that?
This was actual panelists. So this is a one-to-one match of transactors. So we can take from the transaction data, the Comscore panel knows who's transacted, so we can then do a timestamp match on transactors, and then go back and look at actual panelists.
I think the question is more about link to the larger population. So if this is what the panel says,
so we
branch to the right.
So the sample size was big enough that we didn't model. We just looked at the actual. So we're taking the actual people from the MTA study who were modeled to. So the model is in the conversion, and then who's responsive to advertising, and then we can look at those actual people within the Comscore panel and look at their behaviour. So it wasn't modeled out. It probably could be, and that might be a next stage.
There's no reason why it couldn't be.
Yeah.
We have the demos, we have that we can project to the online population, you can project we can do a bunch of enumeration studies as well. So there's no reason why it couldn't. But in this case, since the sample size was rich enough, why do that? Go ahead and just break it out by existing and new customers based on, like Rob mentioned, on the timestamp of the actual transaction from calls to CRM database to our actual database as well. So once you have that exact same timestamp and you know that individual, then for this purpose we didn't do it. But George,
okay. Hey, thank you for what a great event, right? Unbelievable. Last year was my first time in Sevilla. I joined Ogilvy about 18 months ago. I was at Acxiom. We're talking a lot about Acxiom this week. There's the Acxiom booth right over there, the box. I was there for about 10 years, and I was a consultant for a while, and led their products for a while, and joined Ogilvy as Chief Data Officer, the first Chief Data Officer, according to Ogilvy. So if you know Ogilvy, we're a little bit different than most of the firms in the presentation list this week. We're one of the world's largest creative agencies. I am a data guy in a creative agency. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means in terms of business value as well. Ogilvy is 26,000 people, 435 offices, a couple of billion in revenue. We work very closely with some of the firms that you've heard from this week, like Zaxxas and Ruta and others. And we're all part of the WPP family. So one of the things that we launched our global data practice last October. It's called Ogilvy Amp. I'm noticing the clock is not started either. Is that okay? Is that going to have okay now? Yeah, we're serious. Yeah, we're serious. So we launched our practice about 6 months ago or so, And in response to our clients who are asking new questions of us around business value. So one of the things that we've heard from our clients, as the world's largest creative agency, one of the world's largest creative agencies, these are some of the questions that clients are asking us today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about today and where we see things going in the future around business value. So there's nothing surprising about anything on this list. This is what a large integrated marketing communications agency does, right? I have found myself, my team, we found ourselves tightly integrated with creatives and planners and people who are not like us as data people in this room. So this is sort of the view of what we do today. We are mapping our data analytics and technology expertise into these areas today because these are the questions clients are asking us today. And specifically, one of the things we're going to work with several partners here today, integrating third-party data, social data into our planning process. And we can talk more about that offline, and that's been an interesting experience as well. But during this time, I just want to talk about three things very quickly. The first one is my assertion, our assertion, that marketing actions, and we talked a lot about marketing actions this week, impressions, views, so on and so forth, those are not the same as business decisions. The brief for this session is about how data drives business decisions. So we'll talk a little bit about the difference we see between those two concepts. And secondly, the unasked question. And I think we've gotten to it in the last couple of hours or so. We started talking about people and consumers and customers. We've started to shift, even in the course of today, away from cookies and device IDs as enablers to the actual person. We think that's a good trend going forward. And then finally, I'll show you a case study. Unfortunately, I can't name the client, but I'll show you a work in progress case study where we're tying together marketing actions with the business value with a new tool that we developed internally. So let's go. Business decisions, and I like the way Andreas stated the brief here in terms of what are agencies doing to help clients drive business decisions with data. Now, certainly everyone here is a data expert. I can tell everyone that. Everyone here has already segmented the audience multiple times, as have I. But those are really, in our view, those are actions that marketers take and that we take on behalf of marketers to drive activity. Media buys, even segmentation systems, and even things like optimization and planning after the fact into the next cycle. Those are all great marketing actions. These, and this list here, these peaks here, this is where we see clients going as a next phase around using data to drive these business decisions with these metrics. So I should take an informal survey. How many of you are working with your clients and having discussions about metrics like EBITDA and earnings per share and revenue, certainly revenue at a campaign level, cash flow, enterprise value, market value of the firm? Those are difficult to map to from a marketing perspective. Not impossible, but difficult. And certainly we've seen some attribution challenges here already. It's not these metrics. As much as I'm a fan, and I know we all are, we work with far too many clients, and they're frustrated, and we are frustrated with the over-reliance on metrics like likes and shares and comments. Even engagement is still a proxy that we're sort of happy with that seem to indicate something that we're not exactly sure ties to real business value. Again, beyond the context of a particular campaign. So we have, at Ogilvy, we have started to build some concepts around total customer value. Now, everyone here, and certainly everyone in graduate school, and you're as a young data-driven marketer, built lifetime value models. right? Customer lifetime value models. Everyone knows the equation. I was tempted to put it up here. I'm from a creative agency, so I can't put the numbers on slides. So this equation that we're working on right now, we're actually mapping this to these business results that we talked about a couple minutes ago. And beyond that, we're actually mapping this score. It will be total customer value score that we're concepting as we speak, not only to business value, but also across the agency planning, strategy and planning, and media buying and optimization cycles. This is the unnamed client in the U.S. we're working with today, a retail client. This is a tool that we started building internally that starts to tie together metrics along with business value. And I'll show just a little bit of this with the rest of the planning cycle. So this is a view of revenue composition. Everyone's seen something like this before, right? As we slide across the revenue, I don't have a live demo, unfortunately. As we slide across the revenue section there, it certainly shows total revenue percent of coupons for this particular marketer and the number of purchases. So this is interesting. We're not quite there yet. Whoa. Okay. This is an interesting concept here that we're using the total customer value score around high definition personas. Many clients we're working with today, particularly on the FMCG side, as well as retail, this is retail, are building personas. A lot of you probably working with clients building personas based on old data, panels, surveys, technographics, and other data sources. We think those are good. We're using third-party real-time data to build what we're calling these high-definition personas, and we're also using the total customer value score to inform those personas. Now, as you know, personas are a key part of the agency planning process, along with content. So we're also separately piloting a concept called dynamic content. We saw some of our friends yesterday actually making real-time content, data-driven content. We would call that dynamic content. And here we're using data to drive different pieces of creative work in different channels, testing in real time and adapting. What we like about this tool, again, this is a prototype. You can actually layer it on licensing. I'll be happy to talk to you about that. This is data-driven insight. So one of the key challenges we have as an agency is the human-machine interaction. We're a creative agency. I may have mentioned that. We have people who like to use the data and interpret the data and drive insights from the data. This is helping us bridge the gap between humans and machines. This is not, some people have called this programmatic insights. I would not use the term programmatic, but there it was. So this is very interesting in that it actually drives recommendations and business decisions. This is where we're starting to tie this to business value as well. It's an ambitious, well, I guess it's time for, the last slide was, I consider it once, I promise. I think before today, certainly we relied on a measurement framework as a way to prove the value of our work, right? And now I'm not doing it good, so measure of media, right? This is everything that's measurable is not meaningful. I think we're starting to see that now. Today, we're talking about data-driven marketing actions. That's been the whole conference up until this point. I think where we're starting to head now is around total customer value-driven business decisions. And I am out of time. Thank you.
I would just like to ask you a question. You talked about this case of total customer value in retail. Can you also do it for businesses like Unilever who don't sell directly? We would love to.
We've been talking about this. Honestly, I think there's a great use case in FMCG in the sense that you don't have a lot of first-party data or transactional data. And a lot of the interest we've seen early on has been retail, certainly, because there is a lot of data, as well as B2B buyers. Certainly, influence is a huge part of this. And FMCG relies a lot on influencers and social media data. And I think the point here is to tie together, fill in some gaps where the gaps exist. This approach obviously drives a whole new approach to the data ecosystem. We're working with about 300 data suppliers today, and we'd like to see that ecosystem grow even more, filling gaps that exist in particular industries.
And it's going to be 60 seconds. You're going to stand up with me. We're going to do something here real quick. Don't fall asleep. That's why I asked you to stand up. I want you to think of being on the beach, and you're looking out into the ocean, and you're seeing waves come in, and they're undulating, and way out there, 15, 16, 17 years ago, people like us in this room, people who are into data, into analytics, they were given their first computers, their first job, they were the people who did Excel, they had the first databases, the Oracle systems, SAP, and all the nonsense that we've dealt with over the last 20 years. And you saw a wave. And that wave, people talked about that wave in 1998, 1999, 2000. And the wave kind of disappeared. What the hell was that? But the rest of us, we had faith. You saw that wave coming in and get you bigger. And coming in about 2005, 2006, you saw the rise of Facebook, you saw the rise of Google, Amazon became a real powerful entity in the universe. Businesses 20 years ago that didn't exist are now top 20 market cap businesses. 5 years ago, all of a sudden that wave for us became clear. It was right there, right in front of us. We could see how big this damn thing was. Huge, humongous. And we started surfing. Everybody take your surfing pose. You're on that wave. We're surfing. We're like, data and analytics, it's coming. It's going to change the world. We got tools. We got people. We got everything we need. And we're surfing that thing. And we're thinking, marketers, here we come. Here we come. We're going to change the world. This is the end of old spreadsheets. No 85 tabbers. We're taking and changing the way we do analytics. We're going to take it out of the back room, bring it to the front room. We're going to change everything. And we're there. It's 2015, and we're surfing that wave, and we are over the top of the beach now. We are over the top of the beach. If you're looking from where you are, that wave is right there. 2015, ladies and gentlemen. Sit down. Because I want to give you another perspective. This is the part we have to talk about. This is the part we have to overcome. Okay, so this is the reality. Get it right. Okay? You see that wave? That's our tidal wave. That's what you've been surfing for years and years and years. In 2015, that damn thing is hitting the beach like nobody's business. You see that guy right there? That's your average marketer. And he's waving at you like this. Hey, looking away from the wave, by the way. He doesn't see. He's like, hey, my shoes are getting wet. This is cool. Puddles to play in. This is great. A little bit of waves. You know, I can do this media stuff. It's digital. It's so cool. I put ads out there, and instead of like TV, I can do it on different channels. Multi-channel. Wow, this is cool. Meanwhile, we're up there on top of that wave. We're coming down on these people. The simple fact is that your average marketer, how many average marketers are in this room right now? How many average marketers are coming to San Sebastian to talk about data and analytics? Anybody? You raise your hand if you're, got one, two. You're not average marketers, you're here. You are the people who have just turned around and they're like, wow, this thing is going to change everything. Let's start paddling. Okay? What I'm going to talk to you about is dealing with that a little bit. How do we actually start approaching this problem? I've been in the middle of this kind of building my own ark. You know, I'm like Noah, I'm building my ark, and I'm like, come on, marketers, get on, 2x2, we'll get to the digital age. And they're like, oh no, this is so much better standing over here, right? The first things that we need to talk about are what not to talk about. And it's going to be kind of, given that I've watched the last 2 days of presentations, they're fantastic presentations, by the way. I've been really blown away by the stuff that we're seeing, the possibilities that you bring to the table, the level of communication and the storytelling. So I don't want anybody to take the next simplistic stuff that I'm going to put in front of you as, oh shit, I knew that. I know all about that. I want you to take it as the person who's standing at the bottom of that wave, that's where they are. Okay, so the first thing, the first thing is that's freaking crazy. I'm at a data analytics party. How can I say something like this? You know what it sounds like when you talk to a marketer about data? It sounds like, 400,000 million data reports. And they go, okay, yeah, that sounds pretty good. How much did that cost? You know. Okay, ROIs, yeah, whatever. Okay? This is our reality. So the second you realize it's not about the data, that it's about other things, the impact that you're going to bring, and you work backwards. Because there's a simple fact, the marketers today, if you look at the leadership, if you look at the typical marketer who's running a place like Unilever, a country, a senior category, a VP of something, those guys are average 40 plus years old. The day that they showed up to their job, they still didn't have a computer on their desk. Most of the leaders inside my company didn't even use Excel. Now, the day I showed up at my first consulting firm, they gave me 2 computers. One for the database. I had some FoxPro. I had FoxPro on one side, and I had Lotus Notes on the other. Ooh, yeah, Lotus Notes. I am that old. But that was day one. These guys, and a lot of people, have been avoiding this whole thing for the last 10, 15 years. They are in a different place. So when you talk to them, you have to talk about the business and the impact. And we've had a few very good examples the last few minutes here of impact. And you guys have been tremendous talking about impact. So it's not a criticism or anything else. It's a simple, universal truth. If you talk about the impact, then you can tell them as much as they can handle about the data. I'm going to tell you a little funny. I hope I don't get too much trouble for this. I was sitting with Paul Pullman, the CEO of Unilever. And we're showing them data and analytics, and we're like, and people data, and we're going to change the world, and digital. And he looked over at me and he goes, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but you seem very passionate, so I think we should continue. Right? Now, quite honestly, that's more people than he just said it to me, so, you know, he's a very frank Dutchman. But most people are thinking the exact damn thing. They are thinking, I'm not exactly sure, but something is out there and I'm getting wet, so maybe we should go along with this. Focus on the impact, focus on the insights and the question. Make it business-led. Make the business define what your analytics and what your data are, and don't tell them about it. Don't tell them about it. They don't want to hear about coefficients and Bayesian modeling and how you took 400 gazillion gigabytes of data and 400 spreadsheets and you put it into this thing and it piled up and it said 30 million. They just want to know 30 million. And they want to know how fast and how soon and how quick. So focus on it. 3 ways to get there. All right? 1, be clear and simple. Clear and simple. Clear and simple. I don't know how many times I can say that to our partners, our agencies, our analytics people, the analysts on my own team. Clear and simple wins over incredibly brilliant, rigorous, data-driven, fantastical charts with 42 bar graphs. It always wins. wins. And I'm going to show you a few just simple things and see if I can bring home the truth. Second thing here is tell stories. Ladies and gentlemen, the power of storytelling kicks butt on every PowerPoint slide you've ever done. If the slide doesn't tell a story, then don't show it. Just like you don't say, don't look at the graph of the chart, but I'll tell you a story. Then don't show the graph of the chart. Just tell the story. Engage people emotionally. Because quite honestly, I know we're very analytic and we're very data-oriented, a lot of maths and sciences and stats and so on and so forth. But human beings just don't operate that way every day. We just don't. Read any book you want on EQ. It trumps our IQ in daily decision-making millions of times over because we do it all subconsciously. And emotion is the number one thing that will stimulate people to think and think differently and have impact in the world. And lastly, business-led. I can't emphasize that enough. I'm going to show you a quick example of where I'm going with business-led. Business-led. Let the business tell you where the analytics should be. I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to show you quick examples. The London Underground. Does anybody recognize this map? Well, you know it's the London Underground, but this is the geographical-based one. Imagine if you were a first-timer from out of town, from China or something, you go up and you look at the London Underground map, it looks like this. And you go, where the hell am I going to go? You compare it to this, factually incorrect, geographically wrong, lines are moved out of proportion to the previous page. It is wrong. It is wrong on every front. But this works, ladies and gentlemen. This is clearer, simpler, better, and it changes the analytics space from what is reality to something human beings understand. These are simple ways to get across messaging. This is one of the best things I think there is for a situation like this. Now, one of my partners, Rick, he actually presented this slide yesterday. And he told you about the models and the data and how it got there. And God, I don't even know all the stuff he was saying. Some of it I don't even understand sometimes. R programming, data discovery, tools, SAS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I presented to the 16 leaders of Unilever to get my funding for 2015. I didn't present any of that. I presented this. When people talk about our brands very positively, our sales go up. And that's kind of cool, but you know what? You know what that means? It means I can tell you tomorrow whether your advertising is working. I can tell you whether X Factor on TV today worked tomorrow, by tomorrow. I can tell you whether it went up or down and approximately how much of your sales that impacted. That's it. A lot more money for these things. Okay? Now I'm going to tell you another brief story because I'm getting near the end of my time. But the other thing is realize that our marketers and our brand people and our business people, they don't even know the right questions to ask at this moment. Our brand people are from Ben & Jerry's. They're like, there are so many clear things that we already know. Okay, we already know that ice cream, impulse category. We already know that, our sales are seasonal. We already know that when it rains, people buy more ice cream. These are facts. These are God-given truths, ladies and gentlemen. We would never ask questions about these things. What I want to know is, does price matter to my consumers, because I'm pricing up and down every day, and do they talk about it? Do they care? Well, we looked at it. It doesn't take a statistician to notice that the bottom line is price, the top line is people talking about Ben & Jerry's. I don't think we need a correlation model here to tell that there's no correlation. People just don't. But what do they talk about? Now, that's an interesting question. Okay? What they talk about is they talk about eating Ben & Jerry's. Right? They talk about being in bed with their loved one, watching a movie. Talk about, on Saturday, it's going to rain. So I'm going to stay in and watch the Star Wars trilogy for the 7th time. Right? They talk about this. This is what they talk about. And we have 75% of all the mentions about Ben & Jerry's are actually about eating the ice cream in different scenarios, different situations. Well, if you put that side by side with something like sales, hey, I'm doing an analysis, but does this analysis look like I picked regular sales? I want everybody to, does this analysis look like it came out of an R dashboard? Hell no, because if I show you the R dashboard, there's so much noise visually that I can't get it across, get the finger across. People are trying to put their finger on every single dip and dab. The reality is, people buy ice cream on Friday and Saturday, and they talk about it on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Simple fact. High correlations, everything else. And what do they talk about? They talk about weather and what they're going to do on Saturday. Therefore, it's actually something that is a predetermined purchase, not an impulse purchase. Okay? So what I've just done, in simplest terms, and there's a lot more you can do with this, and you guys have given 100 examples of what you could do with this kind of information, and great tools to do it, is, look, there's a lot of money to be made simply by doing our advertising digitally on Thursdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. Stop advertising on Mondays and Tuesdays. People just don't buy them and Jerry's. And when you're going to do it, look at the weather patterns, because we looked at the weather patterns that conveyed them to the sales. Look at the weather patterns and decide, is it forecast for sun or rain? And then you put your digital advertising accordingly and look at your geographical bend. Already in place, simple to execute, crystal clear, storytelling with an ending. And dollars, more dollars. They love dollars. They always love euros, dollars, pounds, whatever it might be. Lastly, I'm going to talk about this, but my final time's up. How I've struggled with this for years and years, and I know an agency side, you guys struggle with it, and I also know as a small company coming into a large company, how do you deal with this? Brands have no understanding of what you're talking about. I won't say no understanding, I'm sure they have some understanding. They have ideas about what they want, but they really don't know how to ask for it. They really don't know exactly how it works. You can go and you can consult with them. I think your idea of being in with them, finding out exactly what they want when they're talking about it is good. If you're going to market to those folks, that's a hard sell. The distance between you and them is very far. We need people in the middle that act as translation. And in this case, what I call it is a storefront. You need people, both in your agency side, in your small companies, in our side, that actually act as translators and influencers with business people that live and work with them every day. And all of that other stuff, the data and everything else, don't talk about it. It's not relevant to people. As a supplier, what I'm most interested in, as a Unilever, I'm interested in from you as a supplier, what can I show and demonstrate value in my storefront? When I put it up on the shelf, okay, we have a nice piece of analytics here that goes out and identifies all the consumers out there with attribution, with a big attribution model, and we have a tool that does that and brings it to you. I don't want my marketers, this is a little bit of mythology that I've heard a lot of the last 2 days. My marketers are not going to be running attribution models in the next 3 to 5 years. They just aren't. I can't even get them to open email, guys. All right? I mean, seriously, we're talking about a whole different level of what they're going to do and not do. You need partners in the business that help you do it. You need to put people there that help them do it. And we need to bridge the gap between marketers and their day job, which is very, very busy, and the actual translation of analytics into action and sales. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.